man right there. All right, we got to get started with the latest on Richard Sherman. The video has emerged of Sherman trying to force his way into the front door of his wife's parents' house. Sherman was arrested Wednesday, but a judge ordered his release without bail Thursday, and he now faces 5 misdemeanor charges. Sherman is scheduled to be in court today. Sherman tweeted about 30 minutes ago, quote, "I am deeply remorseful for my actions on Tuesday night. I behaved in a manner I am not proud of. I've been dealing with some personal challenges over the last several months, but that is not an excuse for how I acted. The importance of mental and emotional health is extremely real, and I vow to get the help I need. I appreciate all the people who have reached out in support of me and my family, including our community here in Seattle. I am grateful to have such an amazing wife, family, and support system to lean on during this time." So, Acho, what's your reaction to Richard Sherman's arrest?
Firstly, I'm thankful that nobody got hurt. Because if someone got hurt, Marcellus Wiley, this conversation would be entirely different, and how we treated and how we responded to this conversation would be totally different. Because no one got hurt, we're able to identify the fact that there are victims on both sides of the door.
Yes.
There are victims first and foremost inside the door. You have Richard Sherman, who was belligerent, banging on the door. If you haven't seen the video and you have the stomach for it, watch it to have more context of the conversation. So inside the door, you have Richard Sherman's in-laws. I believe his wife was inside, maybe her uncle, some people like that. And they are clearly victims of the trauma, having to witness that and go through that.
Yeah.
Had there been violence, and had violence occurred, because Richard Sherman clearly showed up there with bad intentions, we wouldn't be able to understand now also the victim, who is Richard Sherman. And Richard Sherman is a victim, I would say, of pro sports.
Let's go.
He's a victim of pro sports in that we overlook so many other issues that people have, and the individual overlooks the issue they have themselves because they are a star. They're a celebrity. They are the cream of the crop in something. And so we make that mistake far too often. I watched the movie R.E.S.P.C.T. yesterday. Aretha Franklin movie comes out in August. Phenomenal movie. And Aretha Franklin, one of the greatest artists of her time, maybe of all time. First woman, I believe, inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And if you watch the duration and display of her life, she had severe issues, alcoholism issues, different violence-related issues. But everyone looked beyond that because she could sing.
Yeah.
See, so many athletes, people look beyond their personal struggles, their emotional struggles, their spiritual struggles, their familial struggles, because they can backpedal and they can play ball. But this incident, we got hit in the head with the reality of, wait a second, y'all, there's more to it than just a game. And let me say this, and I'm going to say this to camera, because this is what I remembered most. It's just remember that your occupation is what you do and not who you are. Because if you let your occupation become who you are, then when you no longer do what it is that you do, you will have no idea who you are. And I think that's a reminder I ran into right now. It's like, man, I hope Richard Sherman is not in this dark place, because he is confused his occupation, playing football, for who he is. Because now that he is a free agent at 33 years of age and obviously past his prime, he may be running into an identity complex of who it is that he is. He recently said in this post, "I have been dealing with some personal challenges over the last several months." I don't know what those personal challenges are, but I do know this. The transition from football is incredibly difficult, regardless of how intelligent you are. I've watched it firsthand with my brother. Just transitioned, just signed a TV deal with over at the 4 Letters. My brother's maybe the smartest person I know. I would venture to say probably the smartest athlete to play the game of football over the course of a decade. Right? He won the academic Heisman. Now, Marcellus, you went to Columbia.
I mean, I know we're talking a serious subject, but here's some levity.
You did.
You are looking at me while you say that.
I know.
I know, too. You're right. Columbia covers a lot of ills.
He is a genius.
Nah, he's smart.
Like, he's a genius.
I give you some of that.
And even watching him transition, I'm like, yo, it's tough for the smartest person I know, the smartest football player I ever played with. Richard Sherman, we all know how smart he is.
Yeah.
So I'm going to let you take the floor. You got so much more to say, and I'm excited to hear everything you have to say. But those are my early thoughts.
Man, I'm loving the fact that you started us off like this. This is hella deep. And let's just go back to one of our shared favorite adages. I can impress you by talking about my accomplishments, but I can impact you by talking about my scars.
Talk about it.
So I'm gonna personalize a lot of Richard Sherman's story, whether it was me personally, what I went through in my athletic endeavors, or those I shared that experience with. I'm glad that you brought up that he's a star, because it's a little different when you're a star. As we all know, stars shine. And there's an incomplete sentence that follows when stars shine, because everyone says, yes, stars shine, and it blinds others to the reality. It's incomplete because it also blinds that star as well to their own reality. You don't get to fully address all of your issues. Now, let's compliment him being a star and him being a football player. And none of this is judgment and indictment on anything or anyone I'm talking about, but I'm just gonna give you the picture in totality. When you're a football player, emotionally, it dictates to you this: I don't care how you feel, you better go out there and perform. Okay, when you're a football player, you know that there's a switch. You could be a nice, gregarious, sweet, loving mama's boy at home. And then you get into that locker room and it's time to hit that game field, switch, you better turn it on. Be whoever you need to be, maniacal to go get the task done for 3 hours. Switch, turn it off. Now, sometimes it gets a little tricky with that switch. Not only between game experiences, but between life experiences. You're talking about transition. I actually have a foundation called Project Transition for that very same reason. It's because the transitions occur so often in our life, but we don't take full notice of all of those fork in the road moments. This is a fork in the road moment for Richard Sherman. Let me juxtapose what happened with Richard Sherman, and thankfully this is all that happened, even though this is pretty damning and damaging. Because if he would have got through that door. Okay, so let me personalize this story. I played with Junior Seau, and we all know the late, great Junior Seau. A lot of people know his persona in terms of just always fun-loving, always the guy that would carry the water for everybody. And it's true, that was his persona. His personality matched his persona. And there was something about Junior that was super composed, like next level composed. I always said this, and this is before he passed away, that Junior Seau had the greatest amount of talent I've ever seen with the greatest amount of character. I'd never seen somebody that good in something that they did and that great of a person. I never. And I told all the other Hall of Famers I played with the same. But there was a moment when Junior Seau told us all that he needed help. That star was shining, but it was covering up some issues. It's when he ran his car off the cliff. And everyone, and it was reported, and there's a story, talking about the car plunges off the cliff in Carlsbad. And I remember talking to Junior after that, and everybody, people reported in here, his wife, the mayor, everyone is saying, no, that's not Junior, he fell asleep at the wheel. But that really was, looking back retroactively, a cry for help. This moment for Richard Sherman right now is a cry for help. And there's a lot of elements, and we're just starting peeling back this layer of this onion in terms of all the issues at play. But just on my first lap, I want people to understand that there are some things going on making a cocktail that Richard Sherman needs to diffuse, or else this could get tragic.
So I didn't plan on going here, but a lot of that happens when I talk to you on this show about nuanced topics, because we go places that I don't see other places and networks go, and I don't see other individuals go. When you play a character, it's hard to get out of character.
Hey. Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And particularly if you are simply playing a character. Well, a friend of mine, he was the star of the first Purge, my dog, Alon Noel. Okay. He was a star in the first Purge, and if any of y'all have ever seen the Purge series, y'all know what that is. It's just a kind of a violent, gruesome type of thing. And he talked to me. We had sat down for a meal one time, and he told me, he said this, Acho, he said, when I was preparing for that scene, I would take acting classes, but they made me act as a gorilla and a lion and act as an ape, and I would have to act as a beast. Because in the movie, he had to be a beast. I said, well, big dog, how do you ever get out of character? And he said, it's hard, but when I go into the studio, I zip on a character, figuratively. Then in my 45-minute car ride home, I have to spend time zipping that character back off. Otherwise, I will believe I am that character the entire time. Athletes have such a hard time zipping a character on and zipping a character off that most fail to. Most believe they are always that gruesome, violent character. When in all honesty, you have to find a way to differentiate between who you are on the field and who you are off the field. Because on the field, you can be as violent as you want.
Yeah.
You can yell as much as you want. You can tackle, you can curse, you can do whatever. You can hit aggressively. But off the field, you now have to become a law-abiding citizen. Because everything that's legal between those 53 1/3 yards and that 100 field length, it's no longer legal as soon as you walk off those parameters. And far too often, not far too often, we don't give enough help to athletes, nor do us athletes help ourselves enough in mastering putting that character on and taking that character off.